So I made a video in the recent aftermath of one of these hurricanes. Yeah, that's a cow, two of them, in fact. Hey, about the flooding, and rare things still happen is what it was called. And this tends to happen is I'll make a video on a current event, and then as time goes by, I see more news reports, things people say, images from things or videos that might be relevant to the topics that I talked about. And then I'm stuck with whether I want to remake the video or not. And I really don't have the time to turn around and do it again. But I wanted to add a few thoughts that I wish I had when I made the video the first time. So one thing I saw was a news report that had a picture of one of those historic plaques. You know, those kinds of plaques, you see them on the side of the road sometimes. And it was broke. The post it was on was broken in half. And the sign was from over 100 years ago, and it said something like the Great Flood of 1911 or whatever the year was. And it said, in this spot, in this year, there was a terrible flood and all these people died and the houses were destroyed and whatnot. And this was in the same exact spot that people were saying, how could anyone have known this was going to happen, right? And this does not reduce the tragedy of the situation, to make that clear. But it does prove my point in a very tangible way. The signposts are there. 9 times out of 10, the signposts are there. And this cow thinks I have some apples. And so we need to pay attention to the signs because they're there. And the other thing I wanted to say was another story I saw was a post by a man who lives in that area. And guess what? He built his house on stilts. When he was building his house, the officials there said, why are you building your house so high? You're, say, whatever it was, 11 feet above the high water mark of the river. And he said, no, I don't trust that. I'm going to make my house higher than that, so I've got some buffer. And they all mocked him. And he's got a picture of the floodwaters up to just below his house line, his deck. And he even put his carport that high. And he didn't have a picture of that. I'm not sure how that worked engineering-wise, but you think that people would vindicate him and say, wow, what are your other ideas? Because clearly you've got some wisdom that's uncommon. Instead, you know what they do? They tear him down. They tore him down in the comments. How insensitive. How could you gloat about this at a time like this? People are suffering. What about the children? Will anyone think of the children? Right? They should elect that guy to be mayor of wherever the heck he lives. Shoot, he should probably be the governor of whatever state he lives in, because he had the foresight, and that would be the rational response, right? The wise man built his house upon the rock, and when the rain came, the house was still there. The guy that saved a couple of bucks by building on sand didn't work out so well for him. But for some reason in our society, we just refuse to get this. And I know what the reason is. It's called human nature. It's always been this way. The problem is in modern times, we're so juiced up on unmerited prosperity that, hey cow, getting cow kisses. We're so juiced up on unmerited prosperity that we don't notice the consequences of poor choices, because every time something bad happens, we get bailed out. Or we don't even notice bad things happening because we're so insulated by benefits that we don't deserve. Now the cow's peeing behind me, so maybe that's a sign that it's time to go. Speaking of floods, so it's important to apply these lessons. And I hope you're thinking about this, and don't succumb to the temptation when bad things happen to say, oh, no one told me, how could I have known? Look around for the people that knew and see what else you can learn from them, because they probably have a few more tips up their sleeve.